All right, good morning. Welcome to another bowmanwebservices.com video. Today's video is a message to VA Secretary Doug Collins. And so this is my second message, and so I'm going to apologize for my first message. I was sipping a little whiskey and I kind of regret making that video, but since did put it up and I spent the time to put it up, I thought that I would take a minute and I would just try to clarify some things that I may have missed. And so in this video, I just want to, talk to you, Mr. Collins, about some serious problems that I have found here with the VA. And I'm the caretaker of a Navy brown water vet who was there for Vietnam, and he was there for the Cuban Missile Crisis, helped chase that Russian submarine that was armed with that little mini nuke out of our waters here and stop Cuba from putting nuclear missiles on it. And ultimately, during his time in the service, 10 years in the Navy, as a radio man, he was exposed to dozens of chemicals. And I mean, everything from high radiation that they have yet to prove, from what I understand, uh, that even though he would walk around this core with a light bulb, a 2 or 3 foot tube light, and when it glowed, they knew that it was working, and when it didn't glow, it wasn't working, and that's the part that they would yank and fix. And ultimately, he talks about getting burns on his arms and on his body from this radiation. So I definitely believe that that has something to do with the literally he is rated like 200 and something percent like disabled, and honestly, he's still walking around. God bless him, but I need to address all kinds of things from total failures as far as the VA's community care related programs to not being able to get handicap related devices and handicap, accessories for like vehicles and everything. It has been unreal. And I mean, I'm somebody that builds websites. I'm a very determined business guy. I could tell you that I've put in some major time into trying to help this guy, and I'm talking 1,000 hours, right? Without any compensation. Ultimately, it has ripped our family apart, and ultimately, he's still. I don't feel like we've really gotten anywhere. A whole year and a half of working with everybody from the DAV, Disabled American Vets, who totally failed this guy also, and tied up our power of attorney, which we didn't even realize that we knew that we filed that but totally forgot, and when they didn't move forward, yada yada yada. And ultimately, you guys have built a $60 million facility here in Daytona Beach, Florida. And honestly, I could tell you that just during this past year and a half, we've been given so much misinformation that honestly, you need to send out a memo or something to these people that are serving these vets, and they need to be clearly set straight as to, yeah, the misinformation is just unreal. And so let's just start. I'm going to tell you about three people really, but really let's just keep going down this path of my father, because he actually went into the dental part of this system, right? And I believe that that the chemicals he was exposed to potentially, have caused him major dental issues, and I'm talking, for a long time, right? And ultimately, he went into the dentist here who literally prescribed and told him he was going to get implants, right? And said not to worry about having his teeth yanked out. He was really worried that he wasn't going to be able to eat and that he would starve to death, all while he's taking heavy cancer medication, right? He's got to be eating. And ultimately, this dentist promised him stuff, or maybe promise is a strong word, right? But as a doctor, he did authorize different things, like different shots that went into the bone structure of his face, that so that he would strengthen that so that he could put these little posts in. And so that kind of proves that they were talking about doing this. And ultimately, um, he was sent off to community care, two different places. One would be Lifetime Dentistry here, who actually showed, like, I filed a complaint against this company because I really think that there are people that are leeching off of the military, and I think that it's wasteful in general. Since you got a huge facility up here, you could just hire dentists and actually serve these vets. That you got a gigantic facility, really. Like there's got to be extra rooms and everything that are just sitting up there, not being used properly. And these veterans are being pushed off to community care, and it's totally failing. They showed me a stack of papers. It was more than a ream and a half thick. That's 750 pages. That means there's 750 vets here, just in this one market that are not getting the service when it comes to dental. And ultimately, he was sent off to a place to have his teeth extracted. When he got there, the dentist really extracted just the top teeth of his and warned him about getting the bottom. And he said, and the dentist warned him that the VA was totally failing these vets and that he was going to be left without teeth, like he'd seen, you know, hundreds of vets come through, have their teeth yanked, and ultimately not get the things that they needed, and ultimately would have two floating cheap dentures, right? Lowest bidder kind of stuff. And honestly, my father went 2.5 years, just about 2.5 years, with a temporary denture on the top, all right, and like eight half rotten teeth on the bottom. And again, I believe that's all military related. I believe the chemicals he was exposed to really deteriorated his dental stuff. The whatever the I'm not a dentist, but I could tell you, I really believe that that's easy enough to prove or at least relate to. And ultimately, um, why have him go and have bone type shots and other things done? It just seems like, the VA totally failed him. Honestly, we went back to said dentist up here in Daytona Beach, VA, and he straight up said, "Oh, he just told us that to get my father to take action." Too many vets, didn't, wasted his time, I guess, and were concerned about having their teeth pulled, that he started telling the lie of these veterans getting some kind of dental implants. And ultimately, he actually sat there and said, right in front of me, that they really do less than 1% or 2% of these vets actually get that service. And so I think that's very fraudulent. It's very evil. And honestly, I'm very disappointed. Our family is now taking over $10,000. My father's lost like 25 pounds, or he's starting to get his weight back, all while taking these crazy, cancer drugs that the VA is not paying for. We're through a special grant, taking something called Xtandi that has saved his life, at least temporarily. But he's, you know, because the VA, and honestly, let's just bounce over to the other part of failure as far as the VA is concerned. His primary doctor on like the green team or whatever it is actually doubled his prostate medication and eliminated his PSA test and never even told him anything about this. Like, never told him, hey, we're going to cut off a PSA test. If you really want it, you're going to have to order it specially or go through your primary care guy. So we're using Humana and we're using like Medicare, Medicaid, and we're using the VA. And ultimately, it's not enough because the VA should be responsible for all of these things. At the end of the day, um, no, the VA is totally failing this guy, and not just my father. He's just an example of a problem that exists probably coast to coast. I'm talking 100,000 veterans or more, right? That are literally suffering and dying or that have already died. And that'd be the second thing I'm going to talk about is the widows of these veterans are not being taken care of. They're not receiving, any kind of compensation. They're not receiving, actual VA assistance in any way for medical or anything. And so I don't want to head down that path just yet, but that's where we're headed. And then I'm going to tell you about a neighbor here who lost his hearing while he was in the army in Korea. So we're talking a long time ago. And honestly, he's never gotten any help. Honestly, it was discouraged for him to even mention that he got hurt. And honestly, he lost his hearing and he's gone a whole lifetime with only one ear. Yeah, no, really. And I've been telling him he's entitled to something to get up to the VA, but honestly, he doesn't believe that the VA will do anything for him. And honestly, I'm not so sure the VA will do anything for him either because I've literally the stories that I hear of these veterans and how they don't get the services and stuff that they're entitled to is really very sad. And so back to my father, literally, I can't even begin to tell you just just the headache. Honestly, they cut off his PSA test and ultimately over a period of like 3 years. And honestly, there must be stats. And honestly, I'm sure somewhere in the VA there's a department like and I use the example of Gary Brecka. Gary Brecka is a man that I believe he's an honest, good man. And honestly, he has an entire uh, health thing that he's gotten into. And ultimately, his previous job was with an insurance company. And they had a special department that actually went and tried to figure out loss and mitigation of loss, right? And so I just hope that the VA, and sir, please, if there's a department in the VA that is is limiting services to veterans based on some formula of, we know that they're going to get sick between the ages of 70 and 75, and so we're cutting off the PSA test at 68, right? So that they don't overlive a certain time frame, right? And cost the military or the US government said more dollars, right? I think you know where I'm leaning on this, okay? There shouldn't be a department like that within the VA, and I believe there is. And if somebody knows anything about that, or you're a part of that department, I want to interview you and put you on my podcast because um, it's important. It's important to talk about these things. We need to expose the darkness so that we can find some solution. And so, sir, I know you're an honest man. Honestly, I love your videos. I follow you. You can see I'm following you right now. I'm just following you. I love your videos. You're a passionate man. You're passionate about doing the right thing, and you've been empowered by Mr. Trump to do all this for our veterans. And I know you guys, care. And so, please take a minute. Just continue to hear me rant here. I know you're a busy man, but get a cup of coffee, have a coffee with me, and let's talk about this because wow, I can't drive around Daytona Beach without seeing somebody that's got a little sign, a little cardboard sign they made with a pencil or a pen, and literally says, "I'm a veteran. Please help. I'm homeless." It's everywhere, and I'm sure it's coast to coast. What are we doing with these? Don't we have a special department in the VA here that's supposed to be dealing with these homeless vets? Yeah, in fact, I had a client who claimed he has a really nice job and actually, he works for the VA and he is part of their homeless department. And honestly, he doesn't even believe in these veterans. Honestly, he said some ignorant stuff to me one day while I was serving him in his home. Um, and it just to this day it sticks in the back of my mind how we have people serving at the VA that don't believe in these veterans. They don't believe that they're owed anything. And honestly, I've seen it personally, firsthand, from that dentist guy claiming that he just told my father what he wanted to hear to get him to take his teeth out and move forward and to get out of his hair, more or less, right? All the way to his doctor, his primary care doctor, prescribing, doubling his prostate medication without doing any kind of testing, right? All while cutting off the PSA test. And honestly, how many other cancer related tests have been cut off and denied these veterans. And why would you do that? Honestly, the PSA test is a simple blood test, right? And I think it shows warning signs of issues that you already know, probably by statistic, right? That these guys are going to get sick during a certain time frame based on where they were, how they were there, how long they were there, whether they had boots on hard ground, or they were anchored in a bay doing salvage operations, whatever it might be, honestly. And the fact that the Brown Water Navy vets really didn't get any help all the way up until the end of 2019 or beginning of 2020. And honestly, my mother passed, and for 48 years they were together. She died a horrible death, a horrible death. Never saw any justice on it. She pushed this VA thing from 2003 all the way to her death in 2019, and ultimately she never really saw the VA do anything for her or her family, and the struggle of our family for all that time. And honestly, he has been sick since 1970. Honestly, and back to this records thing. All right, I go to the VA, and honestly, for the first time, the va.gov website is horribly difficult to log in. And honestly, as a caretaker, I have to have his primary email and all this other stuff. And every time I need to get in there, they got to send him a text, and I got to call him up. I got to tell him, hey, there's a text coming through, and he's got to hang up the phone because he can't even use a cell phone. He's old school, right? These guys can't use cell phones. They can't use technology. Honestly, if it wasn't for me being like a web developer and all these things that I do professionally, and I'm having trouble getting in, right? And not just getting a text message from him to get in, right? That's not even the problem. I've created like 5 accounts under the four different services you guys have. Four different services, right? Two of them you've discontinued, two are still active, and just absolutely headaches trying to get into the account and actually merge it so that I can actually get in there and get this guy's services. It has been a nightmare working with you guys. And so yeah, I don't mean to just keep ranting, but problems are so many. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. He's been denied everything from these ramps to to conversion based stuff. Really, he needs a van. And honestly, waiting for him to fall and break a hip or have his toes cut off because his diabetes is out of control, right? Or his any one of the dozen things he's got going on. Again, he's rated over like 200%. Okay, so and I'm going to show all that in a video. I'm going to do screencasts and really it's very sad, very sad what's going on here, and and it's going to get worse for me. All right, honestly, my mother's not here anymore. My brother really could care less about his family, and so it's just me, and I'm taking care of two people now. And so it's tough. I got a lot of things on my mind, and so let's pause for a second. Let me just tell you about the widow. I made this video a couple times, so maybe I already ranted about this, but her husband died of prostate cancer. She was working for the government to some extent somehow, and so she was not allowed his pension. Her pension was reduced by 60%, and so she has gone like 30 years with a $600 payment, and literally, that's poverty level. All right, really, what this country has done to her and denied her any kind of benefits, any kind of anything, has really got to be fixed. Honestly, it was just recently fixed that the Social Security thing has now been repaired, but that's, you know, January 2025, something went into effect, and she was given some kind of money going back to January 2024. And so that's really short about 25 years, to be honest with you. And she's been denied any kind of VA related help or the VA related money. Her husband died of prostate cancer. I'm sorry, of a heart attack. But he went through prostate cancer, which we believe was military related, and also he had beaten it. And then after he beat it, he turned around and had a stroke or a heart attack and died. And she received no help, no compensation, and ultimately to this day, she's relying on the crappy medical system that we have. Honestly, I don't want to get into this whole Humana and I forget exactly who she's using, but it's like Health First or something. But this for-profit medical thing, and I know it's not your problem, but this for-profit medical thing that needs to change. Honestly, you see what just happened here with this guy, this assassin in New York. Um, yeah, just unreal. How does a company and honestly, that guy that was shot, he actually was making $10 million a year. And honestly, from what I understand, he was involved in some kind of fraud where him and his upper executives stole $100 million worth of revenue. And yeah. Anyway, that's not you, that's not the VA. But honestly, the problem is so widespread within this country today. It's just it's really what do you do? And so back to our story here. We got a widow that's not receiving stuff. We got a veteran that was, boots on the ground, 10 years in the military, exposed to dozens of chemicals, not getting the services that he needed. He's been lied to and deceived by the VA here in Daytona Beach. His doctors have failed him. Honestly, I took that widow up there to the VA, and she sat down with the VSO and some other department within the VA up there, and she was pretty much told to go pound sand. That there was nothing she was entitled to. She was wasting everybody's time. And this is a little 90-year-old lady. It's 110 pounds and totally run through the muck for 30 years. And it's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Really, she definitely is entitled to something. And the third person would be my neighbor here. A whole lifetime without any kind of assistance. Uh, like I can hear him talking to his wife, like he's got to yell at the top of his lungs, you know. He says that she's deaf, right? No, they're both deaf, or damn close to it. And good people. These are good people. These are not criminals. These aren't people part of our felony system. These are honest, hardworking Americans that have, they fought for this country. They fought for our freedoms. And whether you agree with Vietnam or any of this stuff, and not you specifically, but the listeners, um, these men and women, they deserve our support. They really do. Honestly. I guess that's about where I wanted to take this today. I just wanted to note that all these problems and more exist, really. But important testing needs to continue, honestly. We're at a time of medical, of our history where medical is available that could really transform these veterans' lives. We have all kinds of devices and things powered with AI that could make a difference. And I even built an AI based GPT that actually can navigate the VA, and I'll link to that in the comments below. But that little thing, I don't know if I had it here during this video, but the previous video I was talking to this chat GPT thing. It talks out loud, right? And so just note that I've already expired my thing for the day. Hi, you able to say hello to VA Secretary Doug Collins?
I can't directly reach out to VA Secretary Doug Collins, but I can help craft a strong, impactful message for him. Let me know what you'd like to say, and we can shape it together.
Yeah, actually, I just want to introduce yourself. I built a GPT, which is not you; it's just a version of you. But I want you to just encourage veterans and the secretary here to come up with some kind of better system. Honestly, either recommend you so veterans can actually get better information real time, or something. Or something has to be done. We have all this AI technology. We have all this technology like electronic wheelchairs and other things, and the ability to do things better. And I think, yeah, tell me something.
Absolutely. Secretary Collins, it's time to harness the power of AI and modern technology to truly serve our veterans. With tools like AI driven assistance, real time access to vital information, and streamlined healthcare solutions, we can eliminate delays, confusion, and unnecessary suffering. Veterans deserve immediate, clear, and actionable guidance, not outdated bureaucratic red tape. AI can bridge the gap between veterans and the support they need, whether it's faster claims processing, real time health recommendations, or simply knowing where to turn for help. We have the technology. Now we need the leadership to implement it. Let's build a system that works for veterans, not against them.
That's exactly what I needed that thing to say. Thank you, sir. Congratulations on your new position. It's the 12th United States Secretary of Veteran Affairs. I appreciate you. Thank you for consideration on this matter and on these many issues. I'm sure it's not just the Daytona Beach VA that's failing these veterans, but it's really nationwide. It's many of these facilities, and we got a lot of great facilities that are extremely valuable, that have amazing amount of equipment and other things. And this community care thing, it is not a good idea. I get it in a pinch. It's what we need to do, but really, as long as there's all this whatever paperwork and stuff that veterans, there can't be 750 pages worth of of headache for honestly, these dentists actually have an entire person dedicated to dealing with the VA, and whether it's them or the VA or the whole system, whatever it is, it just needs to fix itself. Honestly, it's really costing a lot of time and a lot of aggravation and a lot of stress to veterans nationwide and to their families. And so thank you, sir, for listening to my rant this morning. I hope you'll like, share, maybe you'll share my GPT as a temporary solution, and while the VA develops something better. And I think they're working on something, but quite honestly, if you can't log into the stinking va.gov website, it really is worthless. And mine takes about 10 seconds to log into. So thank you very much for your time, your consideration on this issue. May this day find you well and blessed. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye bye.